Good morning. Good morning, Sao Paulo.
Good morning.
Good 76K morning. People, are you asleep? What's up? I know the sun is not out, but come on. It's a Bitcoin conference. So, happy to be with you. Thank you for being in our session. We're going to talk about NOSTR in the next half an hour. I have the pleasure of sitting here with some really smart people. Let's start with a show of hands. How many of you know what NOSTR is? Okay, keep it up. How many of you have an active NOSTR account? If you don't, take your hand down. Okay, how many of you use NOSTR at least once a month? Okay, keep it up. How many of you use it once a week? Once a day? Nice, a few of you. Okay. There's more here. Nice, very good. Okay.
Well, some of you need a new hobby.
Well, that's like half of the user base of NOSTR, no? Okay, so we all understand I think we all understand by now the use case of NOSTR as a maybe safe haven for free speech, advocates for people who care about freedom, for people who don't want to be censored. And NOSTR is definitely providing us with that. So like an alternative to another social media network. Maybe it's a replacement for X. But to be honest, in terms of numbers, in the 4 years that NOSTR exists, I'm not sure we're seeing the scale that we need to see in order for it to be a real social media platform, right? We know it's a protocol, and a lot of different apps and use cases can be implemented on that protocol. But here I wanted to talk about the other use cases that NOSTR have, and I don't read Portuguese, but we're talking about digital identity, right? And the fact that your identity on NOSTR is yours, and you can actually take it with you, figure of speech, take it with you whenever you go to other apps or other platforms that are built on top of NOSTR. And that's something that is quite unique. And I would like, to get the panel's reaction on, as a first question of how do you see that use case versus other use cases for NOSTR, or what do you think that the revolutionary aspects of NOSTR are today? Who wants to start?
Yeah, maybe I can start. So I'm a content creator. I do videos and primarily now published on YouTube. So I have all of my different social media accounts which I'm kind of feeding my content in, right? So I have on Instagram, I'm posting my stories. I have on Twitter where I post like my text. I have on YouTube where I post my documentaries. And it's kind of like, I don't know, everybody who uses multiple social medias knows that every platform is differently. So I adjust all of my content based on where I post. So it's not just my personality, but I would say I have like different personalities on those platforms because of the algorithm. So because I know I am a slave of the algorithm which is on the platform, I need to kind of adjust all of this. And it's kind of like different playgrounds I'm playing in, right? And actually this is super shitty for me because I have my YouTube followers. If YouTube rugs me and destroys my account there, all of those people there are gone. I have a Telegram group and all of this. And it's kind of like I need to focus on all of them specifically and build up this persona. Okay, this is Max on Instagram. He's this and that, and on Twitter he's differently. Whereas now with NOSTR, when you ask me what I see the possibility, is kind of like by having one identity, which like I can primarily focus on, don't need to adjust my content and just make one very authentic version of myself, which can then be like funneled into all of those different apps. I can use like something like highlighters, Atlantis, and so on. This gives me the possibility to first have one place where all of my followers are being like congregated and aggregated, and also gives me the possibility to actually own them. We can go later into this, but it's away from, okay, I'm this 5 different Max versions to, okay, just focus on this one, but it gives me the same possibilities than those 5 apps.
Can I play devil's advocate here, actually?
Yes.
I only agree with some of what you said. So I'm going to play the anti-NOSTR guy here, just so that we can mix it up a little bit. So I think having 5 personalities is a good thing because we all have different shades and different flavors of ourselves. I actually like being a very different person on LinkedIn than I am on Twitter. Like, very different, believe me. And I'm also very different on Instagram as well. So I don't actually think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a potential bug in this idea of having a protocol because you want to have different audiences. And I think this sort of idea that you want to have one place where you post your content and all your audiences are going to be there, I think it's a little bit flawed because if you wanted that, you would just stick with the one social network, like whether it's YouTube or Twitter or Instagram, where you fit the most. Because that's the one that that's the personality that you want to portray. Like if you're going to pick one personality out of your 5 and do it on NOSTR, you're fundamentally not going to appeal to the people that are more interested of your LinkedIn version versus your YouTube version versus your Instagram version versus your Twitter version. This problem obviously is a little bit compounded with the algos, but that's a separate issue. I think we need to separate these things. The fundamental piece that I'm speaking about is that every single social network out there has a different flavor, and that's actually a good thing. And I think that's something that NOSTR is going to have a hard time competing against.
Okay, I have like 16 different things that I could pull on, so I'm gonna just pick a few. The first one is you said the algorithm mixes. There is a bit between a mix of the algorithm and the compartmentalization of the data. You can't really detach them because you can't opt out of the algorithm. And it's not that you personally can't opt out of the algorithm. If you play the YouTube game, you must play the YouTube game. You can't really just say, oh, I'm just using YouTube as my data storage. 99% of the value of YouTube is the distribution that YouTube gives you. That's why you use YouTube and not Vimeo, right? So you can't really separate the two. You need to consider the two. And the thing is that when you use YouTube, when you use Twitter, when you use TikTok, whatever it might be, you are forced into that game. You can't opt out of that game. If you
just opt out. Just don't be in the game. Like you're not forced into it.
But it's my business, right? Or like.
So find a new business.
Yeah, that's kind of like. But that's why I'm so bullish on NOSTR because, like, right now I don't have like. What other YouTube version is there? There's no alternative. Yeah, but it doesn't really work.
Dude, that's what like 10,000x the distribution, right?
That's what I mean. So, but the same difference between Rumble and YouTube is the same difference between NOSTR and Rumble, right? So we have a distribution problem here. So if we're talking about distribution, like, so I don't think, basically, if we haven't solved that piece yet, these other arguments, the meta arguments, are not valid.
Yeah, but that's like comparing Bitcoin 2011 with, well, it hasn't dethroned all the central banks, or it hasn't even achieved the gold market cap, so then Bitcoin sucks, or Bitcoin is a failure.
Sort of.
You have to project, and you have to, like, you are into praxeology in some way, so you have to understand the core tenets, you have to understand the principles, and play it forward. If you look at a still picture of a ball flying in the air, you have no idea what's happening with the ball. So you have to take everything into consideration. So I think what attracts me to NOSTR is it has a bunch of very interesting principles, a bunch of interesting core tenets that are extremely, extremely simple to understand, but that when you compound them, they become very, very powerful. So for example, the algorithm thing, and even what you're saying, I actually kind of sort of agree with the concept that you're bringing about, I think that this idea that I will publish my data and I cannot compartmentalize my LinkedIn identity and my Twitter identity might be very different. That's up to you as a user to decide how you engage with these tools. It could be that you literally have different pub keys, and it's literally just different identities. Like they all represent Max, for example, but they are people that follow the Twitter style voice. They don't follow the LinkedIn one.
Angry Max, Travel Max, blah, 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 yeah.
Exactly. I think you can go all that far. I think we can build other approaches and other products, because at the end of the day, people experiment this data via products. So you can create a product. So for example, on the Twitter-like clients, it's called Kind Ones, you can publish a picture. But it's mostly text, right? But you can embed a picture, not like technically, but you can link to a picture. Maybe you want to create an Instagram-like client, and you're going to use the data of notes, of tweets that are linking to a picture, and just display those. You don't have to display the whole thing.
I mean, that's what we're doing. It's the line.
Yeah, and I think that's a very fair way to create a product, and I think that's what makes me super interested in NOSTR, that from a user perspective, you have the control on how you engage with the tools. From a developer standpoint, or from a product maker standpoint, you have full agency to tap into a part of segmenting the data in the way that you see relevant for your application.
Yeah, like just one thing. I also see NOSTR only as a tool for now. It's like I'm still on YouTube X and all of this because we're not there. I totally agree we're not there. But if I see like what I do, content creation as a business, I'm extremely bullish on NOSTR because if I look at all of what I'm doing on a business, the monetary side is extremely, like even though we know there are like, what are there, 50,000 NOSTR users per week or something, it's like I make in certain videos on NOSTR, I make 10 to 20x the amount of money than I do on YouTube with like 10 to 20 amount of views on YouTube. So it's like, just if I would look at this from a business perspective, it's like, even though I have the problems, the discoverability is shit on NOSTR, all of this, it's getting better. But it's like, there's something there for me as a content creator and user where it's like, okay, I know I potentially own all of my followers, I potentially own all of the content. And then, then there comes this monetary thing in with Zaps because they are just able to send me the money, whereas on YouTube I have all of those. I need to pay YouTube and so on. So there is something, I totally agree with you. NOSTR is not yet comparable with the other ones for me as a discoverability. But I'm still extremely bullish just because of this, this outview.
Yeah, I think to clarify what my point was.
I'll squeeze it in
Okay.
a second. You go.
Okay.
Finish your sentence.
So my point was more about we need to be arguing for the right benefit at the right time. So the benefit that you outlined as like one of the killer features, I don't think is relevant right now because of the stage of where NOSTR is right now. I think we need to get sharper around what is the actual usefulness of NOSTR right now for people. Like even the zapping I don't think is very useful because what you're banking on is like for zaps to mean something at scale, Bitcoin first needs to like take over the world, and that's going to take another 100 years.
Yep.
So what is it then for you?
Yes.
What is the most useful use case for you, Svetski?
For me,
Yeah.
I still not sure if I've answered that question myself personally. I think something to do with the closest that I've come to that to an answer for that question is digital marketers want to do everything they can to own their email audience. That's it. So you want an email list. So this is the closest thing to an email list with potential social distribution. It doesn't have any social distribution yet. It's completely meaningless in terms of the size, right? So the network effect is basically zero on NOSTR at the moment, or as good as zero. So to me, that is where the potential is, and I think that's probably worth leaning into from a messaging standpoint. I think censorship resistance, like I've got one identity across all of these different, like I think all of that is like premature. They might be arguments in 10 years from now, but I don't think they're arguments now.
And what are some of the challenges from the user perspectives that users are facing today with NOSTR? What is missing for them? And I mean, we were talking a lot about the product side and how you build the product, but then how do you think the users are accepting it or receiving it on the other side?
So I'm like I come in from the technical standpoint. So I think challenge number one is that key management is still extremely hard. So in Bitcoin, the people that accept dealing with Bitcoin in some way, they have to buy something. So they have a bit of an incentive at some point to deal with keys and understand private keys. The barrier to entry to NOSTR is way, way lower because you don't have to buy anything, right? It's just you download an app or you go to some website and you click a few buttons. So you can't really start talking about private keys and install this extension and things like that to a bunch of people that have really no skin in the game yet. So I think key management is one of the things that we are heavily working on. I did a lot of work in the past year on that. So there is some work that is being done right now that I think will improve it a lot. And I think that's one of the challenges. The other one is that discovery is still extremely hard. It's something that pretty much all applications, all onboarding applications especially, we are all very aware that this is something that we can improve on a lot. And it's just work that's being done. We are being compared with products that are centralized, meaning it's way easier to build on, it's easier to get data from. They are, what they can outspend us like 10,000 to 1, and they've been in the market for 30 years. So it's a bit hard to do a one-to-one comparison. And again, I think it's all about projecting into the future. If you were to look at Amazon in 1994, you would say, who the fuck is going to buy this book from this guy? Like, no way. So it's a lot about looking at the fundamentals and understanding what might play out.
Yeah, when I talk to new users and try to get them on NOSTR, the question is like, why do I need another social media app? And to be honest, I agree. Like it is for now just another social media app, and it's. I think one of the problems we face is that we open up the whole NOSTR universe directly, and most people are super overwhelmed by this. It's like, okay, you're on there, you have like all of those different versions. Like the people don't know what this is to do. So I have like this proposal where I actually want to do like a super radical client which just has like one use case. For example, as a creator, there are a lot of creators who want to have this email list equivalent for social media, and like it could be beneficial to not open up the whole NOSTR universe for them yet, just to like build it on NOSTR. They don't even know what NOSTR is, they don't know what it is, but you have all of those benefits, because by building it on NOSTR, you can, for example, integrate zaps. You can call them something else. You can call them other money, like whatever you want. But
freedom points.
Freedom points, exactly. So it's like this question, I think, is like why another social media app is a very valid question. And I think by focusing on like people, or like building solutions, like white label solutions, for example, like for creators, for people who just have a following and understand that they need to own this following, that this might be a multiplicator how to get the people in. Because
so do you mean, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying, a Max app built on top of NOSTR, so for
exactly.
Max fans,
yeah.
right, and
like,
you will use the underlying framework of NOSTR to run your own.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like
cool.
so there's school. Probably everybody, like Alex Hormozy, is doing so much ads on Instagram and so on, which is exactly this. It's like a creator builds an environment, a closed environment on a closed platform where all his fans go and they interact with each other. This is basically possible with NOSTR. But by decoupling it from NOSTR, I think we have a possibility to say like okay, this is the Max app or something like this. We are able to get like, with this, if we get a good creator or good people, we get thousands of hundreds of thousands of people on this network without them even knowing NOSTR.
Yep.
And then it's kind of like the creator's responsibility to slowly open up the NOSTR universe, say like, oh, did you know that you can just copy paste your secret key to Pablo's app or something like this? Yeah. And I think actually this might be more the way forward as I see it for now for NOSTR. Because those people need the tools. Most of them understand, like, okay, censorship is for them more important than for the normal social media user, because they put the proof of work for 15 years in, and if like it's getting destroyed, they're fucked. So I think this could be one of the first priorities we as builders should focus on.
So if I'm taking your idea one step further, what I'm hearing is you're saying developers need to come to content creators like myself and start working with them in order to create the next generation of tech tools.
Like, yeah, I have no idea about coding. I'm like, literally, the only thing I want to contribute, and I'm contributing, and I urge everybody here, go on NOSTR and figure out what it is for you. This is a use case all my creator friends on YouTube and so on see. So I just want to push this into the void. Hopefully, like some developers meet up and get to know this. Like Highlighter, for example, is going towards this direction, right? It's just super hard to do this on Nostr, and I think we just need some people focusing on one use case, because this is a very small use case. I think it can multiply the Nostr usage by 10 to 20x, whatever. And then there's going to be other use cases, like developers find a use case what they can use Nostr on and so on. And I think by focusing on those small points, rather than trying to make Nostr the world new protocol, like this can help us to lead step to where we actually want to be, which you are saying.
That's
like,
yeah, I mean, that's a 100 times more compelling argument than what you said in the beginning, right? And I think the tool
Fair.
approach is, seriously, I mean, this is what I'm pushing for, though, because like there's way too much circle jerking about new social network and all this kind of crap. I think it's the wrong approach. I think social first before utility is the wrong way around. It's ass backwards. Like we need to have a tool first, and tools that people find useful, where the social element is like the background thing. It's kind of like there's a saying in building network effects called come for the tool, stay for the network. And I think what we've tried to do in the Nostr space is come for the network, but there's no tool here really, but you should come for our network because we're cool and we're censorship resistant. No one gives a fuck. Like,
I got to push back on that a little bit. I think very early on, we did have a lot of, like, that's the pitch, because it would appeal to a bunch of Bitcoiners, a bunch of people that care about these things. The market, the total addressable market of that is like, whatever, maybe 50,000 people, if that.
so it should be more. I think it should be at least 500,000.
Whatever, it's insignificant, right? Yeah. Like, whatever, 1 million, it's a very small number when you compare it to how many users Facebook has, right? I do think there is a lot of interest on building this approach, and we are building this kind of stuff. I think there is a misconception or a perception that developers, we are not working on this because the Twitter tooling was developed very quickly because it's so easy to do. It is remarkable how easy it is to create this kind of tool. And it's engaging, it's very familiar for people.
Yeah.
The buy-in is very low as well. And you see it with a few Bitcoiners, and it kind of can grow. But this is something that we are working on. But I gotta say, we are still quite early. So
Who's we, actually? It sounds like some
So,
BlackRock or something.
So we,
like
and that's actually an interesting question, but we don't have enough time to approach that. But the we is just a bunch of developers. Like I've written and I maintain one of the libraries that people use to build Nostr tools, Nostr applications, NDK. And so I talk with a bunch of developers. So the we is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, many hundreds of developers that are working on all this stuff. That said, a few months ago, I thought we were ready to start building more vertically into the product realm. And now I see that we are still expanding the horizontal scope of what is possible on Nostr and kind of what is required for Nostr to really work with all the building blocks that are necessary. So I kind of shifted a bit my focus. So for example, what I was talking about before, Frost, I don't want to get technical, but like the signature stuff, is all really fundamental building blocks that weren't quite there, and that they were going to limit how much we can grow it vertically. So I think at the moment we are cementing the foundations and expanding. So recently I wrote an IP60, which allows you to have a wallet on an eCash-based wallet on Nostr, where you immediately, because you have a private key, you immediately have a wallet that you can receive money and you can send money. So we go from, okay, you download Nostr, whatever, like Amethyst. Oh, now you have to download wallets of Satoshi. Oh, okay, copy this code here, put it here. Like, no one is going to do that, no one. Like us. But now, because of like this NIP60 and NIP61, the moment you have a private key, you have a wallet, immediately. And you can send and receive money. That is an important building block. That improves the onboarding. But this is all very basic building blocks that weren't there. And they are now there as of like 2 months ago.
I mean, when you say there, like, production ready or still like, because this is one of my other arguments as well is, I actually agree with you. I think that's the best thing you've said about Nostr in a while to me, in the sense that there's a lot of, yeah, it's not ready for the vertical stuff yet. It's still in the cementing stage. I guess I'm curious, what's your bearish case or bullish case for what that range is? Like, how long does it take for this kind of foundation to be meaningful enough for anybody, serious product people to come and actually build? Because right now it's not for serious product people to come and build on. So like, what does this look like? Is it 6 months? Is it 6 years?
I wouldn't say
Your
6
guess.
years. What's that?
Your guess, because you're not going to
Yeah,
get it right.
that's the thing. I don't know. It's like when you are working on the edge, you don't know where the edge is, so you're just climbing the mountain. You don't see the peak. You don't see the summit. My guess is way closer to 6 months than 6 years. But we're getting there. But yeah, if I had to guess, I would say more on the realm of 6 months. It depends on how much effort you're willing to invest.
Everyone get your pitchforks ready in 6 months ago.
There we go.
Okay. I was thinking about the use case of single sign-on, as we spoke about before. When, if you have a LinkedIn account, for example, for professionals, for business, and you go to other websites and you want to take your identity from LinkedIn and sign in with that in another website, that's something you can do today. And more websites are allowing for that to happen, for you to sign in with your Google or your LinkedIn identity. So is that something you see in Nostr, since you're the owner of your own identity, going forward, that could be a good use case to implement? And how do you see that unfolding?
Yeah, so it's super interesting to me that the single sign-on is what broke the internet. When Google and Facebook and all these companies provided this idea where you can, as an application developer or as an entrepreneur, you can rent the social graph, you can rent the identity that someone else has on Google. Like when you're building a product, any button introduces friction which increases churn, right? So as a product developer, you're going to be thinking, do I really need to have this, right? If you say, give me your email address, create a password, I'll send you a confirmation, like all that stuff, you've wasted so much money. Like the traffic that you drove to your application, you're wasting that money. So the single sign-on is extremely interesting. Of course, as an entrepreneur, as an application developer, you are now subject of Google. You are now subject of Facebook. You don't really own you don't really own the relationship with the users. So the single sign-on, I think, is super compelling. It's something that we are already seeing, applications that are not really Nostr applications, because the stuff that you are creating on that application are not Nostr events. It's just like a typical Web 2.0. You just happen to, instead of logging in with Google or Apple, you're logging in with a private key. I think it's a step in the right direction. I do see one problem, which is most people that are Nostr aware would extrapolate. I logged in with Nostr, so the data that I'm creating in this application is Nostr, and I can take it and I can go. It's not the same. Just because you log in with your public key doesn't mean that you're owning your data.
Yeah.
I guess my question to that, though, is what's valuable here is the data or the follower graph? Because if you log in with Nostr, assuming the app has some sort of social graph element to it, logging in with Nostr, if that app has a place to get followers and follow, in your opinion, I feel like I'm moderating. I'm sorry.
Well, you are, in a way, and thanks for co-moderating with me. It's good.
So the question is, what's more important, like the data that you've posted or the actual connections that you've created on the app? What do you think is higher delta?
And you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I have 30 seconds.
No
So
pressure.
I think it's a false dichotomy. But if I had to choose one, I would choose the data.
Really?
Yeah.
Not the list?
No. I think every single application, this was Spotify spent a bunch of money trying to get you to follow a bunch of people, and no one did. And they just set all that money on fire. most applications that have any type of social component, and if it's an application on the internet, it probably has some kind of social component. Most applications improve when they have your social graph, right? Like Satlantis, for example, if I'm going to a city, a review of this random restaurant by 10,000 people might not be persuasive, but if I see that Max went to that restaurant and he says, oh, this restaurant sucks, well, I will take that into account far more. So I think they both have a ton of value. I also think it's a false dichotomy again, but I think the data is more valuable.
Thank you,
Good answer.
Pablo, Max, Svetski. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.